you for welcoming me, and I welcome you to the show, Dr. Judy WTF, What the Freud. And what the Freud are we doing? Repeating patterns and circulating old wounds around and spreading them to the next generation, and then filling our hole in the soul with addiction. So tonight's show is about filling the hole in the soul and using various addictions. I'm going to concentrate on smoking once again because it is a specialty of mine. Not only that, but I am releasing my book. It's just uploading onto Amazon called Kick It. Stop smoking and be the cause of better outcomes for your life. And you can do the process cold turkey or gradual withdrawal. The choice is yours. And that book should be available. It's just that Amazon takes a while to upload it. And Tony, you can show them the website. It's really easy. kickitdrjudy.com. You can look at the website, and there I am many, many years ago when I was kicking it really high with my karate kicks and busting up those cigarettes. So that's really a kind of like a cartoonish version of me kicking it. And so once again, I'm helping people to kick it. And so the theme is the same, whether it's cigarettes or food or alcohol or porn or any hole in the soul filler, it's what it is. It's a hole in the soul filler. And you can already go to that website, kickitdrjudy.com, and you can learn more about the book and the process. And why this book is different than all other books is because it's not just a behavioral approach to kicking the smoking habit, it's really a deep dive into how our wounds of childhood if affect us and infect us and create what I call a hole in the soul, which is that pain point, that deficit that then needs to be filled. And on that site, if you guys want to go there, you will see the different types of smokers. And there are people who smoke for comfort, people who smoke for control, people who smoke because they need to um, be social and show up with a defense mechanism that makes them feel like they are shoring it up and showing up and so on. So in the book, you get to understand your personality type and then deep dive in there so that instead of just behaviorally getting rid of the cigarette, which is one layer of it, you also get to address what the cause is behind your smoking habit and addiction. So there it is. There is the comfort smoker, the control smoker, and the performance smoker, and you can read about it. And if you're not a smoker, I'm sure you know smokers, or you could apply this to any addiction. So you could think about it as the comfort addiction, the control addiction, and the performance addiction. Some um, addictions help you perform better. Some calm you down. Some uh, make it easier for you to stay in control of yourself. So let's bring out the mind map. And this is a call-in show, everybody. So please feel free to call in. And also, because it is the new year, Happy New Year, everyone, 2026, a good year. And let's make it a good year and be the cause of even better outcomes for your life. And so with this idea of the hole in the soul and how addictions work, let's pull out the mind map and use the mind map to mind map the process. So there it is, panel one. Okay, so for those of you who are familiar with my panel one, it is a metaphor for the darkness and the light. And the darkness is really the the shadows that are cast upon your light and prevent you from fully self-actualizing, a term borrowed from Maslow. In my book, Be the Cause Healing Human Disconnect, I refer to the self-actualized part of us as the big I, and the compromised part of us as the little I. So, if you will, those childhood wounds compromise us. And so, what are these childhood wounds? Well, there are many of them. Specific ones that I focus on are sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional neglect, controlling parents, and parents who lack empathy and are narcissistic because they put their own needs before yours. And so, what happens when we are injured at the causal level, meaning um, by our family of origin? That's really what I mean by cause. Our primary caregivers are always the blueprint and always the cause of what happens next. So, what happens next? So, let's move to panel two and we can look at what happens next, which is that we create a reaction to that wound. And there is that painful splintering. If you see that pinkish, reddish area, that represents the wound really, and the hole in the soul is now reacting to um, what caused it to be so. And so these reactions are really the amygdala speaking: fight, flight, freeze, fawn, reactions of shutting down, reactions of fighting, reactions of kind of like the deer in the headlights, freezing or fawning and submitting. So we have different reactions to different wounds. And because we don't always feel comfortable with our reactions, we want to self medicate them. So this is what happens: the hole in the soul is punched into our solar plexus, our psychological solar plexus, so to speak, and then we have a reaction to that, and then we want to medicate that. We want to dial it down. So if you see a psychiatrist, they'll say to you, oh well, you know you're too anxious, let's dial it down, or you're depressed because you've shut down, and so let's put some more juice into the system so that you function better. So that's one line of approach, is a pharmacological approach, which doesn't always address the cause because it's not really helping the person understand how they got in there in the first place. However, in some cases, it's just so important to dial down the amygdala so the person can at least become functional and then go to therapy. So, those of you who know me, I'm not a fan of jumping to the medication. However, if you need the medication to even you out and give you a baseline to start with, then that would be the time to visit a psychiatrist to really attend to the reaction to the wound. So, another reaction to the wound is that we create meaning out of what happened to us. So, let's say, for example, we were abandoned as children. So, the wound would be emotional neglect. And then the reaction might be that the person shut down and gave up on life. And then in panel number three, there is a message that is imprinted on the person. So that's the metaphor for the DNA strand. So you see that this DNA strand is a DNA chock full of encodings, as I like to call them. So now we're encoded with messages from not only our parents, but multi generations of our family of ancestry. And these encodings might be, in the case of emotional neglect, I'm not important, I'm not lovable, I'll never be number one, I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm not meaningful. Okay, so this is the kind of encoding that sets us up to not feel very well and be constantly re-triggered in our trauma area. And so what happens is when somebody triggers off, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not beautiful, you're not anything, then we decompensate and we fall into panel number 4, chaos. So if you look at panel number 4, it's rather disorienting. The bonds are broken, the people are flying off the handle, so to speak. There's no structure, there's no support. It's disorienting because you don't know if you're up and or down, or um, no balance, no landing, no solid ground under your feet. Just a lot of toxicity in the air and a lot of disoriented chaos. So nobody wants to be in chaos. I don't want to be in chaos. You don't want to be in chaos. So what do you do to bind the chaos? So that brings us to panel number 5. And if you look at panel number 5, you will see panel number 5 labeled as defenses. And again, this is very metaphorical for the various defenses we erect as human beings to deal with the pain, to make sure that we don't get a full impact of the pain of these wounds, reactions, and activations of our encoding. So these defense mechanisms is where the addiction lives. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about smoking today just because I am releasing my book, Kick It, Be the Cause of Kick It, Stop Smoking, and Be the Cause of Better Outcomes for Your Life. Thank you, Tony. And there it is. And so we will talk about cold turkey and gradual withdrawal and what some of the secret sauce is in the book, and why the metaphor of the broken chains and the cigarette and so on. But again, apply it to any of your addictions, whether it be alcohol or food or porn or anything you want. So, look, defense mechanisms, they work, sort of. They can numb you out, they can give you a false sense of control, they can help soothe you, they can help you perform better, except that do they really? So that's the question. So one of the things that we do is we give a lot of power and control up to our defense mechanisms. So, for example, when we smoke, we'll say, "Oh, I'm so happy I have my cigarette because now I can calm down," which takes the agency away from you, of course. So you're not calming down. You're giving the power over to the cigarette and telling yourself that the cigarette is calming you down. Now, in my book, Kick It, I very specifically talk about the fact that cigarettes are a stimulant drug. They don't calm you down, but what does calm you down is the breathing and the oxygen. And so now the cigarette, almost like a narcissist, takes control of you and takes credit for calming you down, when what's really calming you down is the deep breathing and the oxygen. However, there's another problem. Addictions can become such that they create the very thing that you need to calm down. So, in the case of smoking, now you're addicted to nicotine, and now you need the nicotine to calm you down, because then you go into withdrawal if you don't have the nicotine. So, the cigarette is now causing the problem that you were trying to resolve by using it. And what was that comment, Tony? Is there a call?
It's not a call, but a question. In fact, they
Okay.
just said, I am a smoker, but they said, I am also a gambler.
Okay.
And when I gamble, it's like all my pain disappears for a while. Why, why does it feel so soothing when I know it's hurting myself? Because every time I lose, I feel worthless. And then I gamble again to feel powerful. Why does it become so just emotional loop?
Oh, okay. So I'll answer that on a deeper level. Okay. So let's go with just plain gambling as a form of intermittent reinforcement, which is partial reinforcement. Do you win every single time? No, but you win sometimes. So when you win sometimes, it gives you a complete adrenaline rush. And then what do when you have that adrenaline rush? Is you feel a sense of relief, a sense of high. Wow, I just won X amount of money, and then you shovel that money into your pocket, and then you kind of feel a little sad because you remember that um, your problems are seeping in, or you remember that last night you lost a lot more and now you have to make up for it. So what do? Is you put a whole bunch of money back into the slot machine or back on the table or whatever form of gambling you're doing, and then you get the high, or you get the low because you lose, and then you want to recapture the loss and put more money into the system so that you can get the high. So this is what I mean by the hole in the soul. So the hole is there, but you're shoving all of this addiction in there to fill it. It's not really filling it because it's fulfillment versus fulfillment. Do you see the difference? So if I eat a bunch of candy, I might be filling myself, but am I really filling myself? Well, not really, because I'm not getting the nutrients and so forth. I'm not getting the light. I'm not getting proper energy from a proper food source. I'm just getting a sugar high. Okay? So you can see the quality of things by what it does to your system. So if you eat a very delicious and nutritious meal and you feel energized by it and it's feeding your body and it's supplying you with your needs, then you know that you're fulfilling yourself. If you're gambling, you're filling yourself. If you're smoking, you're filling yourself. If you're drinking, you're filling yourself. See the difference? You can comment in the chat room or you can call me. I'm happy to talk about this. Now, let's talk about the addiction like I talk about narcissism. Okay, so in a narcissistic system, who steals the show? Okay, so let's say that you have narcissistic parents and you have to people please them and you have to jump so high to attain their love, and love is now conditional, and you've got to work for the system just like you have to work in gambling to get the money. You've got to get the approval or get the love or get the attention. But just like gambling, your parents may be inconsistent and they might train you or groom you to do what they want you to do so that you can give to them. They can suck you dry, just like a cigarette sucks you dry. That's why I call the parallel to the narcissistic system. And then what happens is that you're giving to the parents more than you're getting from them. You're giving to gambling more than you're really getting from it. You're giving to alcohol more than you're getting from it. And you're always paying the price because you're paying money, you're paying for your health, you're paying for the time away from your family, you're paying in the form of giving up control, you're paying in the form of attributing qualities to your addiction that don't belong to that addiction, like the ability to soothe you and calm you down and give you power and solve your problems. So, can you see how there's such a parallel between the original wound of a narcissistic family or a family that wounds you in the way of controlling you or putting you down or um, any one of those wounds that I've mentioned to you that then creates this void and pain that creates the hole in the soul that you now feel that you have to soothe. And you know that the thing is that it works sort of a little bit for a while, but then what happens? Okay, so let's go on with what happens to these beautiful defense mechanisms that you work hard to erect, and you go buy your alcohol or you go out and buy yourself a few packs of cigarettes, or you stack up on a bunch of ice cream, or I don't know what else, potato chips and greasy food and so on, and you bring it home, and You sit down with it and you think, wow, this feels so good. I feel better now. I don't feel as lonely. I don't feel as angry. I don't feel as out of control. And so you're sitting there, but then you feel bloated, or you feel raspy and hoarse, or you feel inebriated and out of control, or you find, I'm a big pet person. I love my dogs. So you find that you're disconnected from the people or the pets around you, and they don't like the smell. I mean, really? Do you think your dogs like the smell of alcohol on you, or the side stream smoke that's coming out of you? I mean, they're going to be sensitive. And if you have children, do you think your children are going to want to cuddle up close and then smell your nasty cigarette smoke or your nasty Cheetos or whatever you're filling your hole in the soul with? Do you think they want to be at the effect of your gambling because you're up all night and then you're combining the gambling with the drinking and the eating? So now we've got defense mechanism after defense mechanism, and one feeds the other, and it's nice to combine them because now we've got lots of fun things paired together. So we've got the drinking and the smoking and the eating and the porn and the this and the that, and having a jolly good time until panel number 6. And that's why the mind map is so useful, because you can see the prediction, the wound, the reaction, the encoding, the chaos, the defenses, and then here come the breakdowns because it's just right around the corner. Do you think those defense mechanisms are going to sustain you? Well, I did say they fill you. Did I say they fulfill you? Are they filled with light? No, they're not. They are the death code. They're not life code. Smoking a cigarette is not in the category of life code. Drinking alcohol, also not in the category of life code. Eating greasy, processed foods, not in the category of life code. So then eventually these defense mechanisms, they blow, and sometimes they rot you from the inside out. Sometimes uh, very drastic things happen, like a heart attack or diagnosis of cancer, or you get in a car crash because of the side effects of your drunken stupor, or your cholesterol goes through the roof and your arteries harden, and the obesity causes nasty diseases like coronary issues, or diabetes, or anything. So you pay a price. It's not a free ride. You know how they say there's no such thing as a free lunch? You might enjoy the cigarette, you might enjoy that nasty food, you might enjoy the alcohol, you might enjoy the porn. However, every one of those defense mechanisms is a form of human disconnect. So you're removing yourself from true fulfillment and connection, which is where true fulfillment really lies. And so now you're not really getting the light. And what happens when we put ourselves in a place where we defend and there's no light coming through the defenses, is that we lock ourselves into this psychological prison, and we're just kind of roasting in there and staying in this prison cell, and eventually we implode or we explode, and then we end up in panel 6. The implosion might be that you just take all your feelings and you suck them down and shove them down, and then you die from depression, really. What is the question? Go ahead.
Well, it does. I created a graphic so people can see it.
I
But
love it. Thank you, Tony. You're so good.
but they ask, I don't drink or use drugs, but I binge on food and shopping when I'm stressed. Is that the same kind of addiction you're talking
Yes,
about?
yes, yes. Even though I'm talking about smoking, it's the same thing. That's an amazing visual. Yeah. So let's go back to the picture. Let's look at it carefully. Is there anything that is fulfilling versus filling there? I mean, I kind of like those donuts. The
I know
coffee
they do
looks
look
really
good.
good. I mean, it looks yummy, and I'm not saying that you should never partake of some level of fulfillment. I think we all do. I mean, what did I have today? I had some coffee, not too bad for me, with stevia as opposed to sugar. But just look at those donuts, and oh my God, look at the hamburger and the French fries. My mouth is watering already, and maybe I'd like to go shopping and fill my closet with some filament. Okay, and look at the money over there. Yeah, that looks, like all of it. That looks pretty damn good. And let's be reasonable. A little bit of it occasionally, but once that scale tips and it's got you in control of it, that's when you're finished. Okay, it's sort of like Las Vegas won big time. You're finished. Let's empty out the pockets. So, you walk in with pockets loaded full of money, you convert them to those little chips, and then they empty out your pockets. Or you win big time and you get really, really high on it. And that's almost worse for you because now you love the feeling. It's not coming from anything that you truly earned from the light source, which is earning your way through life by creating, by helping other people, by being of service, by being kind, by any means of shedding light into the world. Now you're just full, you're filling and filling and filling, 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 and then implosion, explosion. Okay? So break down. And that's where the rubber meets the road. So, great question. Yes, yes, yes. I know the subject is kick it, stop smoking, and that is a specialty of mine. And the book will be out hopefully in the next few days, and then we will have services connected to it and all kinds of interesting things that you can purchase through the Kick It process to come in the future, including my plan for a Kick It vitamin to supplement your system because you have robbed your system of so much while you've been sucking down the cigarettes, robbing you of vitamin C and all kinds of other vitamins and nutrients that you now have to pump back into your system. So, it's not a free ride, not at all. And it doesn't elevate you. And so let's look at panel six together and look at it metaphorically. So there's your cigarette. Okay, you've fired it up, you've lit it up like a rocket ship. It takes you high, but then crash, bang, it blows up in your face in the form of lung cancer or in the form of losing relationships because they don't want to go out with you because you smell bad, or your kids calling you a hypocrite because you preach health to them, but yet you destroy yourself, or you drink too much alcohol and you get into a crash, or you drink alcohol and you don't have the energy to really connect with your family and children because you're seeing through this glaze of alcoholism. So, have you ever looked at somebody that's high? There's this little glitter in their eyes, and it's not a pleasant thing unless you're high too. Ha ha, you can exchange glitter in the eye, but that's not true connection. It's not high value. It's again, it's the defense mechanism, the ism, the drug that puts you in this state, and it's not a connected state. And that's why drugs, sex, rock and roll disconnects. Rock and roll is just like a way of saying drug, sex, rock and roll. I happen to love rock and roll, so not necessarily a disconnection. However, there's so many forms of human disconnect that why would we want to ruin our senses? Why would we want to ruin our ability to feel and experience and connect and to love and be loved and be healthy and to be available to our family and our pets and so on and to the world? Because whenever we do that to ourselves, we're putting a filter between you and the world. No question about it. And so there is no fulfillment when we do that. And that's what happened at a causal level. So if we go back to the wounds of childhood, what your parents did was put a filter between you and them in the form of not giving you enough or punishing you too hard or inappropriately or abusing you or neglecting you. So they disconnected from you. So this is the deep part. So why is there a hole in the soul? Because you've been disconnected from. Now you have a hole in the soul. You can't depend on people to fill it for you because you've lost trust. So if you can't trust mommy and daddy, your primary caregiver, then what do you do about that, right? There's no trust. So plan B, let's turn to something else. Let's turn to alcohol. Let's turn to food. Let's turn to porn. Let's turn to cigarettes. Let's turn to cocaine. Let's turn to any form of drug. Let's turn to our cell phone and just numb out on our cell phone. The list is endless. We become very, very creative. Okay, so this is what I mean by fulfillment versus fulfillment. And then the addiction takes hold. Why? Because the addiction starts to run your life. Now you're running to get a cigarette or running to get a drink or running to get some fast food or running to get some porn so that you can have your release and then have a feeling of high for an instant. What does that do? Is it cuts you off from intimacy from other human beings, which is exactly why our world is in the state that it's in. We have become unempathic, disconnected, addicted, and numbed out. And so, where's the light? So, other than the cigarette light, which many of you are looking for right now because maybe you don't want to hear this information. And it's true, some people just don't want to hear it, they're not ready to hear it. So, let me talk a little bit about smoking and gradual withdrawal versus cold turkey. So, I used to have a clinic back in the 1980s called Habit Breakers, and Habit Breakers was something that I really, really loved. And I would have people come to my clinic, and then in 5 days, I would run them through an aversion therapy process, which, by the way, the book gets into, with the idea that the nicotine leaves the body within 48 to 72 hours, which is true. I'm talking about cold turkey now. So if you go cold turkey on cigarettes for 48 to 72 hours, chances are that much of the nicotine will be gone. And then there's the behavioral part, which is retraining yourself to hate cigarettes, which is where the aversion comes in. Okay. So what did I do back in the days, which is a piece of the method of the Kick It book, is that you want to get to what I have labeled in the book, destination disgust. So, what do I mean by that? When people are in love with their cigarette, right? There's got to be another side of the coin, which is they're also disgusted with their cigarette. They can also feel the dryness and the raspiness and the bitterness and the harshness and the yellow stains on the fingers and the wrinkles around the eyes and the mouth and so on. And so, in the course of disconnecting smokers from their cigarette, we also utilize aversion therapy where they use the cigarette to weaponize against the cigarette and flip the system, if you will, and make something delicious and fulfilling or filling into something nasty. So that's one layer of it. However, unless you get to the cause of the matter, which is why I wrote this book, I've written a couple of books on stop smoking, but this is the deep dive in. Unless you address the hole in the soul, you can behavior modify all you want, nicotine patches, hypnosis, anything, but unless you address the pain, the pain point, which is the disconnect from mother, from father, going back to attachment theory and Bowlby. And Bowlby talks about what we need to have a healthy human psyche, which is the eye contact, the skin contact, the attunement, the unconditional love, the mirroring, which is the mother, the primary caregiver, mirroring back to the child, um, emotions and even words or expressions so that the child can feel seen and heard. Okay. So, unless that's all being done in the first few years of life, you're setting your kid up to have that hole in the soul. Okay. So, that's why we've got to go back to the cause and we have to understand, so who hurt you? How come you weren't comforted? So, aha, let's connect the dots between the cigarette and the need for comfort. Or who took power and control over you? Ah, let's connect the dots between controlling mother or father and needing to have something that you feel puts you in control, okay? Or having a parent that you had to people please. And so having a prop that makes you feel like you're a good performer and that you can handle any situation. So after treating literally thousands upon thousands of smokers on a corporate level, individual level, I've done groups and so on. Actually, that inspired me to, a lot of things inspired me to go back to school and become a psychologist, but certainly the stop smoking system was the beginning of it because I realized it's not just a habit, it's not just an addiction, it's not only that, it's that we're trying to fill a hole in the soul. And so go in there and um, let's fix that. Let's bring peace to that so that we don't do these nasty defense mechanisms. Any questions in the chat room so far?
Yes, and before we go to the question, I actually I grew up in a household not only drinking but a lot of smokers. I mean,
Okay.
smoke, 4 or 5, 6 pack of cigarettes a day. My grandfather died
Oh
of
my
lung
God. Oh my
cancer.
God. Oh,
Yeah, my uncle got lung cancer. This is what was funny about him is he had lung cancer. He was on oxygen. He smoked through the whole time through. When is this? And I'm going to show this graphic because this was one of the questions. Is it possible to truly heal the hole in the soul, or is it something we just learn to manage for the rest of our lives? For somebody like my uncle,
mm-hmm.
who when the doctor said you need to quit smoking, and he wouldn't even he refused. Why is it your life is in jeopardy, but you still give that to the smoking?
Okay, that's a great question. And I too had a father who smoked, and he smoked through his uh, heart surgery.
Wow.
After heart surgery, he put a pillow on his chest so that when he coughed, he wouldn't rip open the stitches.
Oh my
Isn't
gosh.
that nice, right? So that's a great question. So you could see the power of the addiction, can't you?
Oh
Right?
yeah.
So we're talking about the nicotine and the drop of the level of the nicotine, which brings on the withdrawal. Nobody wants to go through the withdrawal. We're talking about the comfort and the habit and the many years of association. And then we're talking about something deeper than that, which is the hole in the soul that it's filling. So, how come people don't quit just because they get a cancer diagnosis or they have to go through heart surgery? Because believe it or not, their unconscious thinks that what's more dangerous than the cigarette is to uncover these horrible truths about what happened to you in childhood
Hmm.
and who done it. and to relive the trauma and process the trauma. I mean, that's not fun stuff. When people come to see me, they ask about what we're going to go through, and I'm going to tell them honestly, we're going to go to the hole in the soul. We're going to go to the who done it and what happened, not to perseverate and keep you there for psychoanalytic years, but to really process the feelings. People are afraid of themselves. They're afraid of the trauma. They don't want to revisit anything. And also, there are so many unskilled therapists out there that won't really address it properly, at least not on a causal level. They may do CBT and behavioral, or I don't know what they're doing out there, or years of talk therapy. Uh, but like who wants to revisit the fact that their parent beat them with the stick till they had scars? Who wants to visit sexual abuse? Who wants to visit those things? So, better leave it alone. Who wants to be in a state of what's that state of you're like feeling torn between loving your mother and hating your mother? Nobody wants to, I love my mother. Yeah, but your mother also ignored you and also allowed you to be in harm's way. And wasn't that like ambivalence? Nobody likes ambivalence. So they keep the defense mechanism in place. Also, this is a really important point, to defend against the past abuses and neglects.
Hmm.
Okay, so I don't know what happened to your grandfather, but I'm sure he wasn't dying to, no pun intended, but dying to process his feelings. Like, no, thank you.
Well, I think
I'd rather be in denial, huh?
back then, I know, I remember when I was 12 years old with the grandfather that had lung cancer. When I went to hug him, still 12 years old is still pretty young. I went to hug him and he said, "Oh, you're too young to be, or you're too old to be hugging your grandpa." So it showed you the emotional blockage that he had towards showing at least another male any type of affection, which my dad and his brothers were the same. We're not affectionate people. So,
Yeah, and we don't know why. I
yeah,
mean,
for
what,
sure.
we could break it down to hello, were you sexually abused? Were
Right,
you verbally abused? Were you beaten? Who hurt you and how did they hurt you? And so now we don't know what's being triggered by a hug. We don't know what's being
right,
triggered by opening up emotions.
right.
We don't know what is being triggered by why don't you trust me and let me in? Like, no, 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 no. Been there, done that. Didn't work very well. Give me my cigarette. Give me my
Mm-hmm.
drink.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. And if we don't talk about these things, then what kind of therapy is going to happen? Let's change your behaviors. Let's put a nicotine patch on you. Let's I don't know. Let's hypnotize you. And I don't know. I mean, I'm trained in hypnosis, and hypnosis is a road. It's a road to the unconscious, certainly. However, without proper processing of emotional trauma, old emotional trauma, which I call complex PTSD, because it's PTSD. It's just that it's old and it's unprocessed, and some of it is so unconscious, like maybe your grandpa's PTSD is so unconscious that you just don't want to hear about it.
Right.
Like shove it all down, pack it all in, numb it all up, and we're good to go. And that's good enough.
Hmm. Uh,
So right, not even the threat of death is enough to,
mm-hmm.
like, okay, curtain number one, you die. Curtain number two, you relive and open up all the scars and the traumas of your past. Oh, I think I'll die. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, I'll try to have a little fun while doing a little alcohol, a little cigarettes, a little gambling, a little porn, a little this, a little that. So, you know, at least I'm going out having a good time, so to speak.
Do you think when it goes back to smoking, um, again, I mean, I remember watching, well, I watch a lot of old school, like, I Love Lucy. I still watch all this I Love Lucy, but that was such a push from government, not government, more corporate. Like they smoked all the time and they promoted
Yes.
cigarettes all the time. Do you feel that do you feel like that was one reason the addiction started?
Yes, I think that is one reason that addiction start is parents role model to their
Yeah,
children. So this is what daddy or mommy
that was one
does
of the
when
questions.
she's sad or when she gets angry or when she loses control. This is what we do. And so it is, I talk about multi-generational. My parents were heavy smokers. Fortunately, I learned to hate them when I was really young.
Me too.
Quick little story about that. I remember I asked my father, I think it was at age 13, I said, "Hey, Dad, when can I start smoking?" And he said, "Right now, sweetheart." And he took out a cigarette and lit it for me. And then he handed it to me and I
Wow.
inhaled it. It was kind of rough. And he goes, "Have another, have another, have another." And I almost threw up. And so, thank you, Dad. He's way gone now, but thank you very much for giving me my first aversion session, which I now carry forward to you who smoke and need to break up with your best friend
Mm.
because my father wouldn't let me be best friends with that cigarette because he gave me my first aversion experience to cigarettes, which I thought was brilliant. And now I thank him and use his methodology to help people to arrive at destination disgust, which is where I arrived quickly, first experience with cigarettes. So what was the question, Tony? I kind of wandered off there,
Well,
but
there was a question. Let me see if I can find it real
oh,
quick.
I know about role modeling. Yeah, my
Yes, the role
parents
models. Yes.
were smokers. It would have been really easy for me to pick up the cigarette, but I think I got too disgusted and too angry. And if you watch your parents drink, I mean, I have friends that say, "Well, I drink every night because my dad and mom, they drank every night, so I'm just continuing the pattern." But that it's all our responsibility to
Mm-hmm.
heal and break old blueprint and pattern when it doesn't serve us, even though we were handed down um, that pattern. And one of the things that I used to emphasize at my Habit Breakers clinic are these ads, because what do advertisement companies want to do? They want to charm the pants off of you about their product, right? So now, oh, cigarettes are beautiful. They make you feel sexy, or they make you feel in charge of your life. And remember all those gorgeous cigarettes, the Marlboro Man,
Oh
and
yeah.
you know, I'm remembering that back in 1999, I was invited on the Roseanne Barr show, and I was the stop smoking therapist for the day. And I got to show the audience the lungs, and it was a big panel. It was also Richard Branson was there, and so was Morton Downey, who died of lung cancer. Not
Mm-hmm.
not the son, but the father. And then there was the lady who smoked through her trachea. There were a lot of people on that panel. I was very proud to be there and be part of that process. And my kids came, and my mother joined me, and it was a really proud and scary moment because I was on national television, and that was pretty scary. And I had to therapize Roseanne's daughter on the show. And I also had to therapize, I forgot, it was a comedian. I forgot his name. It'll come to me. But anyway, during that process, uh, I had had a chance to hold a lung because Roseanne made me take this lung out of this bucket. And I was really angry at her because she made me hold it up in front of the audience, and then I had to show the audience all the holes in the lungs, and then the teenagers on the panel were talking about smoking. But yeah, it's so there's so many things here: multi generations, role modeling, addiction, hole in the soul, injury, filament. It's just like layers and layers, and then associating cigarettes with pleasure and food and sex and mm, trips and being youthful and Marlboro Man being energetic and riding a horse. I mean, what they didn't do to create the image. So now part of the challenge is to destroy the image that smoking and advertisement built up in the audience. And then speaking of pets, my dog's barking in the background. If you're a pet lover, as I am, I wouldn't want to be putting outside stream smoke to my pets or my children or grandchildren or really anybody. So again, when you smoke, it's not just an island unto itself. It's that you're putting these fumes
Hmm.
out there for everyone. So not only are you poisoning yourself, you're poisoning those around you. So, for those of you who want to quit smoking or quit any habit, please check out Kick It. Stop smoking and be the cause of better outcomes for your life. And the cold turkey is just, ripping off that band aid and going through it. And the gradual withdrawal is really giving you an opportunity to eliminate cigarettes in batches. So, you eliminate the the cigarettes that are not that meaningful for you, and then you eliminate, let's say, your morning coffee cigarette, or you just keep eliminating, and so it brings your nicotine level down. And then while you're doing the process, you're also developing a disgust for the cigarette. And so that's a 3 week process versus a 5 day process. And you can pick and choose, and the book even helps you decide which method is right for you. So, again, for those of you who smoke, there it is. Grab that copy, and hopefully it'll be alive and well on Amazon as a paperback, and then as a Kindle version. It should be ready in the next, hopefully, few days. And then you can always call the Psychological Healing Center and receive help, therapy, counseling from me or somebody else on the team. And remembering, of course, that you don't smoke because you are only because you're addicted and have a habit. You smoke because you you are filling the hole in the soul that your blueprint, your multi-generational blueprint left you with. And so you've been basically trying to solve the problem of smoking with all these patches and methodologies. And so the real problem is the pain point, the hole in the soul. And then, of course, the defense mechanisms are what supposedly cover them up. But then not really, because then everybody arrives at panel six, and that's when the rubber meets the road and everything breaks down. So I want to wish everyone a happy new year. And this is a year for you to be the cause of better outcomes of your life and to examine your addictions and your habits and to see what is filling you versus what is fulfilling you and steer your life in the direction of fulfillment. So, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you next time.